My computer again? Can't seem to remember. Oh, hi. Good to see you. My name is Austin Broder. I'm a instructor and curriculum developer with Digital Media Academy, and I'm responsible for all the Maya courses, all those 3D courses. That's me. So, I was actually asked by them to create a little video series and show you guys something cool with a couple videos. So I thought about it, and I figured it would be really awesome to walk you guys through how to create a character of really high quality and really rapidly and intuitively. So, let's do that. This video is going to assume that you have a basic intro to Maya, so if you've taken one of our courses, whether it's DMA Online or one of our summer courses, you should be great. If you haven't, definitely check out DMA Online. I wrote a course that's an introductory to Maya course, and it's fantastic. And you can also look at the summer courses if you want something a little more significant. So, just to review, this video series is going to be showing you a workflow on how to rapidly develop really high quality character concepts in 3D. So first we're going to start off in Mudbox, which is a digital sculpting software, which is great because it's different than poly modeling. It's a little more intuitive and a lot more like sculpting with clay. And then once we're done sculpting our character in Mudbox, we'll bring it to Maya in order to get it ready for texturing and optimize it for animation. So then third, we'll bring it back into Mudbox to paint it. And then we'll go back into Maya one more time for lighting and rendering. And then finally, we'll take that render into Photoshop to polish it and finalize it. It's gonna be awesome! Oh my god! It's gonna be so good! And I think that's all, so let's jump right into that lesson. I am gonna go find where I left my computer. I'll see you guys over there. So our goal today is to jump into fun stuff as quickly as possible. Go ahead and open up Mudbox, close that initial dialog. Let's get familiar with the controls. So the camera works just like it does in Maya. So Alt plus left mouse button is orbit, Alt plus middle mouse button is pan, Alt and the right mouse button is zoom. These tabs over here seem important. This is the object list, or a list of objects in the scene. Over here is the layers tab, just like in Photoshop, except here we'll have both sculpt and paint layers. Now go to create sphere, and you can tap W to show or hide the wireframe. This is helpful in seeing how much structure you have available to sculpt details. Let's take a look at how the brushes work. So this bottom row down here has several groups of tools. You can see that there's tools for sculpting, painting, drawing curves, posing or editing your model, and select or move your model. Let's go to the Sculpt Tools tab and start with a nice basic sculpt tool. So the way this works is if you click down, it'll push outwards. If you hold Control, it pushes inwards. If you hold Shift, it'll smooth. So holding Control or Shift typically has the same effect with other brushes. So if you want to smooth something out, you can just hold Shift no matter what tool you have selected. It might explode on your first click, so Command Z will undo that. And it's probably because the strength or the size of your brush might be way too intense. So hold B to click and drag left and right and adjust the brush sizes. Hold M and click and drag up and down to adjust the strength. Over to the right, there are more brush options, and you can adjust size and strength with sliders, or you can turn on symmetry. So X is side to side, Y is up and down, Z is forward and backwards. We want everything to be mirrored side to side, so let's set this to X. So here's an important idea before we move any further. Mudbox will only lend its full power to you if you think in terms of iterations. So basically that means work with the simplest mesh you can until you get as close to your goal shape as possible. Too much detail too early on can really frustrate you and make it a much more difficult process. I start out with the grab brush, or you can press 4 on the keyboard, and I make sure my brush is big enough to start shaping the whole face. And then I just kind of work with this, and then there's a nice little face shape. Then I'll switch back to the sculpt tool and hold Control to push some eye holes in, and maybe then click and drag to draw out a little bit of a nose. And I kind of tweak these shapes a little bit and try to block out some more of the forms of the face. Now we can add some more detail to work with, but not a ton. Only subdivide once for now. So to subdivide, you can press Shift D. It will tell you how many polygons there are now. Now what's super awesome here is that you can step up and down in these subdivision levels at any point. Realize your head's too wide after you've already been sculpting tons of detail. Difficult fix when you're dealing with like 250,000 polygons, but if you go to Mesh, step level down, it's a much easier fix. Now I'll bring it back to that previous level and just bring it as far as I can. This design kind of make some design decisions. And once I've taken it as far as the topology or the limiting structure of the face can let me bring it, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up to level 4. Now, most people will probably be the most comfortable with the Sculpt brush, but I've found that using the wax brush can be really useful. It operates a little bit differently though. So I use my brush strokes to kind of outline contours or describe string of muscles. The strokes don't really have to be perfect, but try and make them follow that basic line you're trying to establish. Then hold shift and smooth them out a little bit. And I find that smoothing one side more than the other can kind of create a more interesting effect in the shapes of the head. But also just experiment with all the other brushes too. Here are some tricks that I've found helped me. Make sure the head is thinner in height, kind of make sure it's not a perfect sphere. Draw out the brows a little bit, then follow that line down the nose. Draw out the ridge of the nostrils. Layer on that cheekbone and draw out that nasolabial fold. Push in the cavity below the zygomaticus around where the buccinator is, above the bottom of the jaw. Push in that temporal fossa. Those kind of cavities are things that are visible in a picture of a skull if you want to look at that. I try seeing the shape of the upper lip first. It's kind of like a diagonal line that dips inward at the last second. Then the bottom lip is just a chunk of meat. It's very important to be looking at reference as you progress. You can YouTube sculpting a face and watch for the shapes that they create. And if you can get that basic structure, everything else becomes much more easy. I'll provide some of my favorite videos in the description. Don't be afraid to scrap this and start over a lot. Like, take your time, create something that you really enjoy, and avoid sculpting a famous person or someone's like with a specific likeness, because it's going to be significantly more difficult at this point, but just focus on trying to understand the forms and make something up. It will probably take several tries, so just enjoy this part. Think of these as sketches and don't kind of put any of them on a pedestal. Remember to take breaks, because when we get too caught up or frustrated, it hinders our abilities. So it's good to be patient and this stuff will come to you. And save often. Okay, so now we have an awesome character model. This is really cool on its own, but it has way too many polygons to be useful in film or games. It's not really ready to be textured either. So in the next video, I'll show you how to do exactly those things. Thanks for staying tuned. I'll see you guys in the next video.